All right. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. That was great. I really appreciate it. Definitely humbling to be here and to share my story. Kind of wish my wife could have came with me today, but she didn't. I told her I was going to Canada, and she just said, way too cold. That was it. I was like, I don't know. It's not really. I don't think. I don't know. Whatever. But she's home with our 3 kids anyway, which is cool. She does a really good job of keeping me grounded, and because I get to travel around the country and speak and share our story. And she was with me at an event one time, and it was like a big event, big stage. We were dressed up. I was sitting next to her, and I was trying to build up my energy, get some momentum going into this thing, because I get nervous before these things. I mean, you guys are intimidating a little bit. And I leaned over to her, and I said, "Hey, Rach," because her name is Rachel, which is way too long. So I'm like, "Hey, Rach, in your wildest dreams, would you ever have guessed that I'm about to get up on this stage and share our life with this audience?" And she took a moment, and then she leaned over and she said, "Babe, I'm sorry to break this to you right now, but you're not actually in any of my wildest dreams." Yeah. So I was like, all right. I went from being up here down to here. Let's go. Let's get up on stage, not nervous anymore. So I got up on stage and went. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share our life with you, and my life, it's unique to me, right? Everyone here, everyone in this room, your life, your story, that book that you're writing, it is unique to you. We all have our own unique stories, and we're still writing them. But I think there's similar strands that run throughout. So as I'm up here talking, I'm going to talk about embracing challenge. I'm going to talk about resilience. I don't want you to think about me and my story. I want you to focus on where you are. At work, in your relationships, in your personal life, just who you are. I want you to be able to take something away from something I say. That's kind of my goal. All right. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to start my story in Hawaii. Has anyone been to Hawaii before? 2? All right. Hawaii's pretty cool. I've been there before. It's a lot. If you haven't been there, it's a lot like Toronto, minus an. All right, not at all. But we're in Hawaii right now, so picture us in Hawaii, and I'm 132 miles into a race, and this race is the Ironman triathlon. Is anyone familiar with the Ironman? All right, the Ironman, a couple of you have heard of it. If you have not, I describe it as a long day, because it's kind of just what it is. It's a long day, and everyone can relate to that. Everyone's had a long day before. You swim 2.4 miles. Oh, wait, that's U.S. speak right there. 3.8 kilometers. I just did the conversion in my head, if you're wondering. I did not just look it up before I got up on stage. So you swim 3.8 kilometers, 2.4 miles. Then you ride your bike 112 miles, which is 180 kilometers. Conversion again, right then and there. Yeah, and then you finish with a marathon, 26.2 miles, 42.2 kilometers. Just did that conversion in my head. So I'm 132 miles in. I'm done converting because I can't really convert, but I'm 132 miles into it. I'm already done swimming. In my head, as I'm ripping through the Pacific Ocean, I'm Michael Phelps, right? And then the next day I saw a video and I was like, no, I'm more like a giraffe in a bathtub. But I'm done swimming. I'm done with a bike ride, 112 miles, long time to be on a bike, but I'm done. Now I'm 18 miles into this marathon, all right? Has anyone run a marathon before? All right, a couple of you. I see it. How about a half marathon? Who's running a half marathon? All right. Hey, who's running a half marathon Saturday? Corey is. All right, good job. He's actually an ultra runner right there. But I like how a lot of the same hands went up. They're like, yeah, I did a half marathon twice. It's a full marathon. How about a 5K? Who's done a 5K before? There we go. All right. Who's just went outside of their house and walked around their block once? All right, a couple more hands. You go out to all right, so everyone here, you can relate to where I was physically and mentally 132 miles into this race, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I can't see it because I'm in physical pain. My body hurts. You know that side stitch you get when you're like walking out to your mailbox or up the steps or running? I had that everywhere. Every major muscle group was cramping up, seizing up. My hips hurt. My feet hurt. My left foot hurt. My right foot didn't feel like anything because I don't have a real right foot. I'm a right below the knee amputee, so I got some hardware people in the front row could see. Pretty cool. I don't have to worry about getting blisters on my right foot when I'm running, which is a win. You got to take the wins when you can get them, right? And I had one of those running blades on. I don't know if you've ever seen those blades. So I don't have to worry about blisters on that thing. But my nub, I do have to worry about getting some blisters and skin breakdown on my nub. My nub, his name is Jason. I won't call him Jason today because there might be a Jason out there. It gets awkward for them. But my nub, I was feeling some issues going on, and I'm starting to think, should I stop and fix this? And that would be me sitting on the ground and taking my leg off and taking my liner off and trying to get something dry enough to wipe off my limb and getting everything situated and standing back up. I didn't want to do that. But then I didn't have to make that decision whether I was going to stop or not because my body made that decision for me. Because not only does your body hurt when you run a race, it takes an entire day, but also, what do you think you have to do throughout that day to keep going? Water, heard it, hydrate. Food, that's it as well. What I'm going for is your nutrition plan. And your nutrition plan, it's how you fuel your body. You have a big swim, bike, and run that day, but the most important thing that you do on that particular day is fuel your body. And I had the perfect plan. I had a coach, I had a mentor, I knew how many calories I was going to eat for breakfast right before getting in the water, 350 calories per hour on the bike, how much fluid my body needed based on my sweat rate. Like I had this thing down to a T. It was the perfect plan. And I love how you brought this up, Ian. But I think it was Mike Tyson. This is what I like to do. He's the guy. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And that's what running an Ironman feels like. If you've never done it, it feels like getting punched in the mouth. And I deviated from that plan a couple times, and now 18 miles into this marathon, that's when it hit me. All of a sudden, I started to feel weak, and my run slows to a jog, and my jog slows to a walk, and my walk slows to a stagger. And within 5 minutes of feeling weak, I am done, and my body gave up. I sat down on the side of the road. I was at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii, and now I'm sitting on the side of the road. This is not where I wanted to be, right? I trained for months for this race, kind of years for this race. I'd put so much into it, 7 days a week, 2 or 3 workouts a day, up before the sun every day, and now I'm on the side of the road. Not where I wanted to be. And this was more than a race to me. This was more than just an event. I know it's a race, like whatever. But to me, this was personal. This was me proving to myself something, and now I'm on the side of the road. But don't worry, I did what any great triathlete would do. I took my leg off. Maybe not every great triathlete can do that, but I could. And I took my leg off, I took my liner off. It felt so good. Just the relief. Imagine like walking around in your high heels all day, right? And you get home and you kick those heels off and that relief you feel in your feet. I've never done that. It's just, Ian told me that's what it felt like. That really, I don't know. But it felt so good. It was awesome. And then I did the second best thing that I could have possibly done at this point in time in my life. I ate a peanut butter and jelly Uncrustable sandwich. I don't know have you ever had those things? Growing up, I had to get my mom to cut the crust off of my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Yeah, right. She never would have done that. I ate crust growing up. That's why I'm so tough. Yeah, use that. But anyway, I'm munching on the sandwich. I didn't want it. My stomach was upset. I wasn't hungry. My stomach was upset. But although my body has given up, I'm still going through the motions as if I'm going to finish this race. And those things have 210 calories. So I'm hanging out, munching on my sandwich, sitting on my butt with my leg next to me, and next thing I know, I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, Hawaii is actually pretty nice. This isn't bad. I could smell the ocean. I could kind of feel a little bit of a breeze. This is pretty cool. I realized I'm comfortable right now. I'm very comfortable. And then it hit me. It's like, I'm extremely comfortable. I'm at that point where, like when you get home from a long day at work or something and you sit down on your couch and you're like, oh, I guess I'm sleeping here tonight. There's no way I'm getting back up. I'm that comfortable. And I'm like, okay, I didn't come to Hawaii to not finish this race, so I need to get going. So I grabbed my prosthetic liner and I put it on my nub, and I grabbed my prosthetic leg and I put it on, or I go to put it on, and it doesn't fit. And a little bit confused, I pick it up and look at it like maybe I grabbed someone else's leg, right? I'm like, nah, this is mine. I looked down at my limb and it was swollen. All the fluid that I've taken in with my heart rate that high, now it was into my limb and I can't get my leg on. And I just remember this feeling. I was defeated. I was absolutely defeated. Think of a time in your life where you were just defeated. I wanted to quit. Every part of me wanted to quit. And I asked myself this question, Eric, how did you get yourself into this? Have you ever asked yourself that question before? Yeah. How about today? Did you ask yourself that question today? I hope not. Yeah, but how did I get myself into this? I wanted to quit. This was my first attempt at finishing the Ironman triathlon. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to finish that story. But look at the negative things going on. I'm in physical pain. I can't get my leg on. That's never a good day. I'm out of energy. I got voices in my head talking to me, trying to get me to quit. But if we go back to this particular day in my life, there were a lot of positive things. I was alive. I was in Hawaii. That's cool. My family was out there to support me. My wife, 2 daughters. We've since added a son, but he wasn't there yet. They were there. I had people tracking my progress from all over. They were sending me messages on social media throughout that whole week, encouraging me. And for me, the big thing, I was competing in a sport. Something I've always loved to do, and something that at one point in my life, like I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it again, and we were doing it. And we were doing it on the big stage at the Ironman World Championships. It was just hard to see the positive things because they were masked by the pain and fatigue. They were masked by the negative things. I was in the midst of a challenge. That's where everyone in this room comes into my story. I don't think everyone's going to go out after my little talk and sign up for an Ironman. Maybe just half of you, right? But I do know everyone faces challenge. You might be in it right now. Next week, you're going to get some. Next month, you're going to get some. There's some obstacles, adversities headed your way. Hey, and I hope they hit you, like in a good way, because when we face challenge, that's when we grow. That's when we grow. And I'll tell you what, the situation that we're in or what we're dealing with at any particular time, that's not what defines us. What defines us is who we are in that challenge, all right? If we get knocked down, it's how we get back up. How we get back up and keep pushing forward, brush yourself off a little bit. Or when things are going pretty well, it's how we look around and we pull others up with us. And really, it's character. That's what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about character, and everyone has character. Everyone in this room, you have character. Good character or bad character, I don't know, but you can't just wake up one day and flip a switch and all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm someone of great character. Character is something that we develop. And we develop it. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes those little habits, the behaviors that we do consistently day in and day out to develop who we are. And there's some things I'm going to share with you that are important to me. These are some things that I take pride in. And I want you to think about some of the things that are important to you. But for me, integrity, how I live my life, how I do my job, how I parent, how I'm a husband. Do the people around me trust me? Or have I compromised that at some point? Work ethic. When I'm given a task, a job, a mission, am I that person that's going to pour everything into it, or am I going to do just enough to get by? All right? Do I care about the people around me? Do I care about the people around me? Or am I always thinking, what's in it for me? Because sometimes we get stuck doing that. Do I have compassion? And then this last one, this is what I hope my kids grow up with. Am I resilient? Do I have grit? When things get hard, am I quick to walk away, or am I ready to dig in and push through? Because that's important. That's important to me. In fact, there's talented people. There's talented people in everything that we do. There's some very talented people in this room. And then there's some people that just don't give up. Those people that work hard. And I'll tell you, out of those two groups of people, I want this person with me, that person that just doesn't give up. Because you could have someone who's extremely talented, but when things get hard, they walk away. That does us no good. But that person that just doesn't give up, that's the person that's going to eventually be successful. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about resilience. I'm going to share some principles that I've learned, because I've had people throughout my life who've helped me navigate through different challenges and helped me develop who I am. So I'm going to share those lessons with you. But first, I want to get back to that Ironman. No. Before I get back to that Ironman, I have to give you a little bit more of my background to give you an idea who I am. Got some pictures with me. Oh, there we go. This is not like a Halloween picture. This is my family. This is the mid-'80s in the U.S. I'm a really good-looking guy in the front row with the red sweater and the bowl cut, which I'm going to start rocking again next year, I think. I wish I can do that. But I look at this picture, and I'm grateful. I didn't realize it at the time or growing up or as a young adult, but what my parents valued mattered. They valued character. They valued love. They valued support. They valued family. I was fortunate being raised. Not everyone has that situation. Not everyone has that foundation that I was given, and I hope I could give that to my kids for what it's worth. My dad, he loved sports. He is a funny-looking dude. Don't tell him I said that, all right? But he loves sports. Because he loves sports, we were a sports family. My 2 older sisters, they were good at sports. I played them, and I loved them so much. This is me going out for football Americano. And this is 6th grade. 6th grade. This is supposed to be an intimidating picture. I don't know why we took it in front of pink flowers. And you're not supposed to smile in football pictures. No one told me that until the 7th grade, but I couldn't find that picture. But I love sports. Because I love sports, I had to appreciate school. That was my mom's role. She didn't like sports, but she knew how to use them. in order to play on these teams, and I played them all, baseball, football, soccer growing up, and I had to do well, and I had to get A's on my report card in order to be on these sports teams. And I thought it was a little unfair, and her expectations were a little high, but so I tested her once, and she held me out of a Little League baseball game, and I was like, okay, it's legit. I tried, and in the 8th grade, because I valued school, it impacted me. I had to do a homework assignment. If you think back to your 8th grade, my English teacher gave us a career research report. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I didn't know, because she said you're not allowed to do this on being a professional athlete. So there goes my first 9 choices. That was unfair, right? I went home, I asked my parents, and my dad, he said, well, you should check out the military. I'm like, military, okay. And if you go back to the mid-90s, out of all the different commercials here in the United States, the armed services, the different commercials, you got the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and the Air Force. The Marine Corps had the best commercials, so that's when I decided I was going to be a Marine. Their marketing team, go look at mid-90s U.S. Marine Corps marketing, and that's what you want to do, because they had a guy with massive muscles without his shirt scale a mountain and slay a dragon. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And I got to serve as a U.S. Marine for 7 years, and that's what we did every day for training, just to throw that out there. It was pretty cool. But I did my report on the Marine Corps, and I was impressed with what the Marines represent, the rich history, the stories of valor, heroes, sacrifice. And I realized there's always going to be someone sacrificing how they live their life in order to provide freedom for their nation. And honestly, I think we're always looking for a purpose larger than ourselves, and that's where I find mine. Like, I wanted to be a Marine. So I grew up, and because that's what happens. And the path that I took to get into the Marine Corps, I went to the United States Naval Academy. Has anyone heard of West Point before? Yeah, Naval Academy, we're a lot like West Point, but way better. So I went there, and I actually played rugby there. I was a fly half, probably not as good as you, Ian, but that's all right. I didn't even know the rules. I just ran around tackling people. It was a lot of fun, though. It was a lot of fun. I studied mechanical engineering. Do we have any engineers out there? Okay. Now you can look around and see where the nerds are. That's cool. I studied mechanical engineering. It was awesome. It was honestly, it ended up being one of the best decisions I've made in my entire life. And it wasn't because I work as an engineer now. It's actually where I met my wife. She was also a midshipman at the Naval Academy studying mechanical engineering. So I go to her for help in my coursework. Not because I cared about my grades. I just thought she was really cute. That was my strategy. And I remember I was sitting next to her in thermodynamics class, and I wrote her a note and said, "Do you like me more than a friend? Circle yes or no." And I slid it over. She circled yes, so it was pretty cool. We graduated 2006. She became an officer of the United States Navy. I became an officer in the United States Marine Corps, and a lot happened really quick. There she is. She's the one on the left. And we had our first daughter. We both started new careers and started deploying. We did 5 overseas deployments. One of us was basically always gone as we were raising our daughter. My last deployment was a trip to Helmand Province, Afghanistan. And this was a unique job, something I was a little bit nervous of. But every time I get nervous or scared of something, I've realized I gravitate towards it, and we grow. I led a small team of 5 guys. We embedded directly into an Afghan Army infantry company of about 120 soldiers with a job to advise and mentor them during combat operations. And we were there and this is just one of the villages we were in. It was the Helmand Province. So it was like a desert area with mountains and some greenery because you had the Helmand River running through it. I thought it was beautiful. But this is what I'll take away with me. This is my corpsman. So he's our medic outside of a school. And this school a year prior didn't exist. So while we were there, their elders, their villagers felt safe enough to educate their kids. And it was awesome. I loved it. On December 9th in 2011, my life changed. And the day started early, woke up at about 4:30, did some final preparation to go on a patrol. And this patrol, it was dismounted, meaning we were going to be walking around a couple villages. And we were in a newer area, so it was we wanted to really get the villagers to trust the Afghan soldiers more than they trusted the Taliban. And we were out and about. It was about a 5-hour patrol. And every time I tell this story, the patrol gets a little bit longer. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Yeah. But we're finishing up this 6-hour patrol, and we're heading back to our patrol base. And as we're going back to our patrol base, that's when it happened. I stepped on an IED, an improvised explosive device, and I triggered an explosion underneath my right foot. I remember the experience vividly. It was I was conscious throughout, but I didn't know what happened. I was dazed. I had a concussion, so I didn't know what was going on for a couple seconds. I just remember this violent force picked my body up and threw me to the ground. And immediately my ears were ringing and just a very high-pitched ringing sound. I didn't even hear the explosion. I heard a pop, like you're opening a can of Coca-Cola or something. I heard that pop, and then my ears were ringing, and then life was just in slow motion. Life was in slow motion. I felt wetness on my left leg, up pretty high, and I didn't feel any pain. I could smell chemicals. I could taste like the dust particles that were landing on my lips and my face, and start to open my eyes and then kind of see some dirt. And then slowly I'm realizing, like, wait a second, I'm in Afghanistan. I'm laying on my back. I'm looking into the sky. A second earlier, it's a beautiful blue sky, not a cloud in it. Now it's full of smoke and dust, and that's when it hit me. Oh my goodness. I just stepped on an IED. And I knew it. That was the weapon that we saw over and over and over again. And I knew that I just stepped on an IED. And I knew that I was bleeding. I still didn't feel pain. And for a moment, I thought that might be it. And actually, I remember the two thoughts that went through my head. The first thought, I thought I was going to heaven. And I don't know if I prepared myself for this or whatever, but it was more of acceptance than anything. And for me, I'm a Christian. I think heaven is an amazing place, and I'm just thinking about this, and all of a sudden I picture my wife and my daughter's face, and I get scared. I was scared. There were things on this earth that I still wanted to do, right? I'm scared, and I'm thinking about them, and then my corpsman, Mike Schrum, who was in that last picture, he came running over to me. Now it felt like 2 hours just laying on that ground, going through all that. It was about 12 seconds. As soon as the dust settled, he was on me, taking care of me, saving my life. That's what we do, take care of each other. But he was just an absolute stud hero. It was just, at first, when I saw him, I saw his eyes get big, and that made me scared. But as soon as he started working on me, it settled me down. The pain was intense. But I could get past that now, because what I saw next was amazing. It was myself and him and some Afghan soldiers, but there are 2 Marine units in the area, and now the 2 Marine units, they came to us. There's an explosion, now there's danger. Instead of them running from it, they run to us, and every Marine on the ground had a job to do. Everyone's job was a little bit different, but everyone had to do that job in order to complete the mission. And the mission changed it from what we were doing to saving Captain McElvenny's life. And one thing I love about the Marine Corps is there is leadership at every level. If there's 2 Marines in a room, and they could be the same rank, one of them is in charge. Leadership and problem solving, decision making at every level. And I was the senior ranking guy there. Someone stepped up and took charge. Another guy took his unit and went and set security so the Taliban couldn't mess with us as they were getting me out of there. Another group went to find a place for a helicopter to land and clear it to make sure there's no IEDs. And the last group, they're getting ready to get me. They're getting a stretcher ready, and my corpsman is working on me. And was it perfect? Did everything go as planned? Not really. At one point, I look over, and they're trying to fix a radio. They couldn't get headquarters on the radio, and I see guys swapping things out from a different radio. They're problem solving. They're making it happen. Next thing, I'm just praying. I'm laying there praying that the helicopters get there before the Taliban does. And as I'm laying there, I heard the worst sound that I could hear at that time. Another explosion behind me. Not even that far. I didn't even try to look. Another Marine stepped on an IED. I looked in my corpsman's eyes. He put his head down, Mike. He put his head down for a second, and then he popped up and sprinted over to him. We're not supposed to do that. There's already 2 IEDs hidden in the ground. It's an uncleared minefield. But at that point in time, that Marine's life was more important to him than his own. That's selfless right there. They're working on him. I'm being worked on. Next thing I know, I hear helicopters. The helicopters are inbound. They're getting closer and closer, and this is where it gets fuzzy for me. I was given some morphine, but as the helicopters were coming in, we started to get shot at. And initially, they called the helicopters off because you don't want a helicopter shot down. But the pilot, he saw it from the air. He said, "No, I see you guys. I see the enemy. I'm coming in. Someone throws smoke." I remember seeing the smoke. Someone threw a canister of green smoke. It billowed. It was a kind of in between myself and Lance Corporal Miller. A helicopter came in fast and furious and landed. And at this point, it was a controlled chaos. This is what's supposed to happen. But the rotor blades are creating the wind, and debris and sand and rocks are flying everywhere. And they pick me up, and they're running. I'm on a stretcher, and they run me into the back of the helicopter and button it up. I'm laying next to Matthew, and it takes off. And it was a 7-minute flight from where we were to the surgical facility. I'll never forget that flight for two main reasons. The first one, that's when I realized that I'd lost the lower part of my right leg. I didn't even know it until then. My corpsman did such a good job of splitting and keeping my mind off of it. And then as we were getting closer to that surgical facility, the crew chief in the back, he started counting down. He said, all right, guys, we got 30 seconds. Brace yourself. And he has to yell because it's loud in the helicopter. And you could feel the helicopter start moving and start descending. And he keeps counting down. He's like, all right, 25 seconds. At this point, me and Matthew were laying next to each other. Matthew, he just lost his left leg. He was 19 years old. This is his first deployment. 20 seconds. At 20 seconds, Matthew looks over at me and he says, sir, you first. As in, let them take you off the helicopter first. I'll never forget that. He just lost his left leg. He's in extreme pain. Instead of him thinking about himself, he's able to look around and say, hey, what can I do for someone else right now? I could let this Marine off the helicopter first. That's character right there. It's not always about us. I use that today, just every day. Whether I'm having a good day or I'm in my own struggles, you look around, what can you do for someone else? Matthew, right now, he's a staff sergeant, still in the Marine Corps on a prosthetic leg. He's on a deployment right now. Now, that's character. We landed. I went into surgery. I was into surgery within 40 minutes of my injury. Woke up after surgery. I'm missing my right leg. I got bandages all over my left leg, my arm. I got IVs in me. I'm in bad shape, but I'm alive. I'm alive. And this is what starts the journey. This is what starts the journey. That was the bad stuff. The next is the good stuff. My life changed that day, right? And change is hard. Change is hard. No matter how big or small that change is, we all go through it. And change is difficult. Change in our company is difficult. Change in our family is difficult. Moving from one place, it's hard. But who we are in change, who we are in challenge, we are going to impact the people around us. Our circle. Like, who's in your circle? Maybe it's colleagues, maybe it's customers, maybe it's your friends, family. People have different size circles, but we are going to impact the people in our circle. We don't get to make that choice. The choice that we do get to make, and we make it each and every morning when we wake up, is whether we're going to impact our circle in a positive way or a negative way. And I've had people throughout my life show me how to impact in a positive way. There are things in our lives that we do not control, right? Like my leg, probably not going to grow back. I tried fertilizer, that didn't work. I'm giving it up, right? But I can't control that, but there are things that I do control. And these are some of the things I'm going to share with you. And the first lesson that I learned after my injury, sometimes you think you're going to learn life's lessons from a really good-looking motivational speaker, or maybe your CEO, or maybe a mentor. I learned a very important lesson from my 5-year-old daughter. My daughter... That's the picture of my daughter. So I hope you can see that. My daughter, her name is Lupe. She was 5 years old when I was injured. That's like this big. Does anyone have a 5-year-old? There are a couple of you, wow. If not, everyone should go out and rent a 5-year-old for a couple of days. I think you could do that. They're awesome. They tell you how it is. But Lupe, I was scared how she was going to handle this, right? Because before this deployment, she looked at me like I was Superman. So I just pretended to be Superman. And after this injury, after the dust settled, I'm in the hospital, I started thinking, like, I am not Superman. Like, how do you do that? I didn't know what was next. How's she going to handle this? And if we go back to December 9th, middle of the night, we were living in San Diego, so that's where my wife and my daughter were. My wife got the phone call. And my wife... she missed the phone call because she misses every phone call. I don't even know why she has a phone sometimes. I don't know. But anyway, she listened to the voicemail and called him back. It was headquarters Marine Corps. They told her, your husband, Captain Eric McElvenny, has been injured. He lost one of his legs. He's in critical condition, going into surgery. And we'll get back to you when we get more information. So that was the first phone call. It's a hard phone call to get, but we knew, both of us being military, we knew a phone call was way better than someone showing up in uniform. So she dealt with it. She handled it. They talked throughout that night. And the next morning, it was Friday morning, she didn't have to go into her ship. She was actually going to volunteer in Lupe's kindergarten class, and she ended up not doing that. But she sat Lupe down and told her, she said, Lupe, Daddy got hurt at work. Daddy lost one of his legs, and Daddy's coming home. We need to be there to support him. And Lupe asked a question. She said, well, when is Daddy coming home? And my wife said, she's going to be about a week. He's going to be home in about 7 days. That was kind of the estimate. And home was like the hospital in San Diego. And Lupe, she took about 10 seconds to process all of this information. And then she smiled. And she said, Daddy's going to be home for Christmas. And I thought that was so cool. I thought that was so cool. Such a negative event for me and my wife, my parents, my friends. My 5-year-old daughter just so purely pulled something positive from that situation. And I knew I was in Germany on my way back when my wife told me her response. She told me that story, and I just knew immediately that Lupe was the person I wanted to be around. I wanted to be around Lupe more than anything. Someone that could find that something positive in that situation. That's the type of person I want on my team. That's the type of person I want to be, right? And it's like a kid's way of thinking. We all thought like that at one point, and then when do we lose that kid's way of thinking? Well, really, it's simple. What did Lupe do? That was just her being grateful for what she had. She still had her father. She still had her father. And that's what she decided to focus on. And I realized there's a lot that I have to be grateful for. I'm grateful that I'm still alive. I'm still her father. I'm grateful that I still have my left leg. I didn't used to like my left leg until I lost my right one. Now I love this thing. Yeah, legs are cool. Legs are cool. I am grateful for the prosthetics I have. I have this everyday walking leg. I got a running blade. I got a cycling leg. I got a leg I could take in the water. And the technology is awesome. I am grateful that I had the privilege of serving my country as a Marine. That's something I wanted to do for a long time, and I got to do it. I'm grateful to be on the journey that I'm on. I'm grateful that I get to share it. Definitely grateful to be here today. There's a lot to be grateful for, right? And here's a trick. I didn't make this up, but this is your takeaway here. I want you to think of something. Think of something that you have to do. Think of something you have to do. Like, it could be simple. It could be like, I have to feed my dog in the morning. And my dog always wakes up before my alarm, and she has me trained. I get out of bed and I feed her. I'm like, why am I doing this? My wife does a lot of the cooking. I have to clear the table, get dishes going. Lupe's older now. I have to drive her to all her activities. It's crazy. She plays softball and swimming and band, and she has friends. It was crazy. I'm like an unpaid Uber driver. Not fair. So think of something that you have to do, all right? And then starting in the back, one by one, can you share with us what you have to do? I'm just kidding. You're like, what? I did not sign up for that. All right. So all we got to do is take that, what you have to do, and change it from I have to I get to, right? I get to feed my dog in the morning. She's an 11-year-old black lab. She's so cool. Even though it's early and before my alarm goes off, she brings our family so much love. I get to clear the table and get dishes going. That's simple. That means there's food on the table. That's a win. That means we sat down as a family and we ate. That's a win. I get to drive Lupe around. She is in high school now. She's going to be graduating soon. And I tell you what, I realize it. That we get one-on-one time in the car. No friends around, no nothing else. We have the conversations we have, I cherish. I know I'm going to miss them. I get to drive her around. All right? When we can be more grateful in our lives, we can impact people in a positive way. So a resilient person is grateful. And with that, there's some things that I'm pretty grateful for about being an amputee. I save money on socks, which is kind of cool, right? When I buy socks, it's always like a buy one, get one free. And it's always a cool thing. And I fly a lot. And when I fly, that's all right. You can pick it up. When I fly, there's not a lot of leg room in the seat. So I just take my leg off and put it up top. Every seat on the flight is first class for me, which is a win. So there's some wins in there. My favorite restaurant, definitely, I love breakfast. My favorite restaurant is IHOP. And I'll usually take my leg off and hop in. All right. I think principle 2 that I want to share with you, a resilient person has goals, all right? Everyone here has a goal. After my injury, I didn't have a huge goal. My goal was to get out of pain. And then my commanding officer, he's still fighting the war in Afghanistan. He sent me an email. This is after my last surgery. I think he waited for that. But I'm laying in a hospital bed, and I have an iPad. I open up my emails, and it's from him. And I'm like, oh, cool. Wonder what's going on in Afghanistan. And I open it up. It says, Eric, let me know when you're going to run your first marathon. And I remember reading this email and thinking to myself, wow. What a jerk, right? Why would you say that? That's messed up. But I also knew what he was doing, and he knew what I needed to hear to get motivated, to get inspired, to stop worrying about what it is I can't do anymore and start focusing on what it is that I can do, and let's set a goal. He cared enough about me to challenge me, all right? Think about some of the people in your lives that challenge you. It's not because they don't like you, it's because they love you. They want you to succeed. They want you to face a little bit of challenge because that's when we grow. So he challenged me at running a marathon. That's when I had to one-up it, and I set my goal to finish an Ironman triathlon. I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into, but it seemed impossible. It seemed impossible, but it inspired me. Does your goal right now, do you have a goal right now? Professional goal, personal goal that inspires you? Because when I set that goal and I was inspired by my goal, I had reason to get out of bed in the morning. I had reason to go to physical therapy. I was supposed to get 4 sessions a week. I started doing 6, right? I had reasons to go to all my appointments. I was pushing the envelope. You couldn't hold me back now because I was inspired by my goal. And who read their goal this morning? Well, you're probably not home, so I didn't either. But write your goal out, put it somewhere that you could see it, tell 2 people about it. Then it's legit. It's a real goal. And I'll tell you what, I had this goal to run an Ironman. Early on, I had trouble getting from my bed to the kitchen. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. The medication was killing me. My leg was killing me. Sometimes I'd feel like I'd take a step forward, 2 steps forward, and then 1 back. It was hard. It was hard to focus on the Ironman, so that's why we broke it down into milestones. Milestone 1 was learning how to walk. And I stood up on my first prosthetic leg 2 months after my injury. I was in the parallel bars. Right? 2 weeks after that, I was out of the parallel bars. I wasn't in the parallel bars for 2 straight weeks. Like I got to go home on crutches and stuff. But then I had a cane, and then before my Marines got back from Afghanistan, I dropped the cane and I was standing and walking. So when they got off that plane, I was there to greet them. It was awesome. You know, another milestone, I had to learn how to swim. And I swim, when we compete, I swim without my prosthetic, so I go clockwise, right? I got to aim left to go straight, figure it out. It's a little Kentucky windage. It works. I had to learn how to run, learn how to ride. Next thing I know, I'm signed up for my first triathlon. My first triathlon was a sprint triathlon. This was that morning. I woke up, put on my triathlon kit. I went into the living room. I was going to eat some breakfast and go to the race. And I see my wife. She sees me, and her eyes get real big. And I'm like, I think she's checking me out, right? And then she kind of smiles and starts laughing a little bit. And then she can't stop laughing. And I'm like, Rach, what's so funny? And she says, I'm so sorry. I've never seen you in spandex before. You know? I was like, oh, great. Yeah, now I'm self-conscious. Does it make my butt look big? And she's like, a little bit. We'll work on that later. Go to the race. But I got to do that race. And in the first year, I did 3 triathlons and a marathon, and then I got a call. I got a call from an organization. It was Refuel, Got Chocolate Milk, ? And they're marketing low-fat chocolate milk as a recovery drink for athletes. Because low-fat chocolate milk has all of the necessary nutrients, minerals, and proteins that your body needs to recover after a hard workout. I'm sorry, I was under contract to say that for a year, so it kind of just slips out. But they called me up, they said, Eric, we're putting together a team to go compete at the Ironman World Championships. Do you want to be part of it? I was like, yes, definitely, I'm in. And then their follow-up question, which I really think they should have led off with, was, Eric, are you lactose intolerant by any chance? I was like, nope. And even if I was, I wouldn't tell you, because I really want to do that race. And it was pretty cool. There was 4 of us that were going to do this race, and cool experience. On the far right, I don't know if I've got any American football fans out there, but that's Pittsburgh Steeler, Hines Ward, future Hall of Fame wide receiver. He was one of the guys on our team, and I'm from Pittsburgh, so I was a big fan. It was pretty neat, and I'll tell you what, he is deathly afraid of sharks. Before the race, we got to train together for 8 months, and every time we got in any body of water, he's like, hey, Eric, do you think there's any sharks in there? I'm like, yeah, tons of them, yeah. But the way I see it, if I'm a shark and I'm kind of swimming around in the waters and I look up and I see me, I'm going to be like, oh, we must have already got to him. I'm going to go get this guy over here. Which I think there's some legitimacy to that, because I've been in the ocean a ton and never once have I been eaten by a shark. But it was pretty cool. In the middle, it's Paula Newby-Fraser. Paula Newby-Fraser, 8-time Ironman world champion. They call her the Queen of Kona. No one has done what she's done in the sport. She's our coach. And she looks pretty sweet in this picture. I'll just leave it there. Right? Now, what she preached consistency, discipline. A resilient person is a consistent person. When I met her, I was a little intimidated. I said, Paula, I am not a strong swimmer. And she said, you don't have to be a strong swimmer. You just have to be consistent. I was like, okay. I'm not a fast runner either. She's like, you don't have to be a fast runner. You just have to be consistent. I was like, I might as well round it out. Like, I'm not a very good biker. It's like, you don't have to be a very good biker. You just have to be consistent. Eric, if you want to reach your goal, you got to do the work day in and day out, especially on the days that you don't want to. One thing that she would say that I loved was, it's not what you do in a day, It's what you do daily. And you can relate to that. There's some days I have like massive amounts of training and I'm hurt for the next week. Like that does us no good. You gotta be consistent day in and day out. Do the work that you have to do, especially on the days that you don't want to. Maybe that call you don't want to make, that's the one you have to make. That's when you gotta do the work. Because if you don't do the training day in and day out for an Ironman, you don't cross that finish line. That translates to every goal that we have. You gotta do the work day in and day out. A resilient person is consistent, has self-discipline to get it done. All right, I got to talk about Lupe one more time. Lupe. So when I was injured, I was given a handicap placard, which kind of makes sense, but I was not ready to be handicapped at that point in time in my life, so I threw it away. And then I must have complained for the next 6 months because I got another one in the mail. Like 6 months later, my wife was like, hey, here's this. I'm like, let me see that. Put it in my glove box for a rainy day, you know. And I was living in San Diego at that time, and I quickly realized it never rains in San Diego. So I started using that thing on sunny days. I'd pull into work, and I like, wow, that's a long walk. I think I'm going to be handicapped today. And I pull it to the front and get my placard and hang it up. And when I get out of my truck, I limp a little bit, like, oh, I got the leg thing going on. If you guys are wondering, I was like, wore shorts more often. And one day I was with Lupe, and we go to the grocery store. And I pull into the parking lot, and there's no parking anywhere. There's already cars driving around waiting, and I'm like, not dealing with this today. So I zip to the front, pull into my handicap spot. I grab my placard, I hang it up. I'm like, Lupe, let's go. We get out of the truck, we start walking into the store, and she says, Dad, what was that magic blue ticket? I'm like, oh, that thing? Yeah, because Daddy only has one leg. I get to park right there. That's for people like me. Without missing the beat, she says, but Dad, you have 5 legs. You have a running leg, a biking leg, a water leg, a walking leg, and your left leg. And I'm like, yeah, let's go, you little brat. You know, and we're walking into the store, and I'm walking through the aisles of the store, and I was just feeling guilty. I was feeling guilty that this was not the example I wanted to be setting. I was using my leg as an excuse when it was convenient for me. I have nothing against handicap parking, but I just ran 6 miles, all right? I was training for an Ironman. Someone needed that spot more than me. I was using my leg as an excuse when it was convenient for me, not just with parking, with other things in my life, with training. I'd go on a run with some buddies, and if their pace just picked up a little bit too much, I'm like, hey, you guys keep going. I got the leg thing going on, you know, I'll walk it in from here. I was using this leg as an excuse, and it was holding me back from reaching my potential. That day, walking through the grocery store, I made a promise to myself that I would never use this stupid leg as an excuse again. And I race a lot. But there's usually someone in my age group that beats me. It's not because of my leg. It's because they worked harder than me. When I adopted that mindset, that's when I started really getting closer to reaching my potential. And I share this with you, not because I'm extremely proud of this story. I share this with you because we are human and we have excuses. What's your go-to excuse? Now, I challenge you, next time you're going to use an excuse to get out of something, ask yourself, what is this holding me back from reaching, right? Instead of thinking like, okay, I need to get out of this with excuse, hey, if I don't use this excuse, what good can come from it? You know, spin it. But I'll tell you, that was a good lesson from Lupe. I learned a lot of lessons from Lupe. Let's go back to the Ironman. Let's go back to Hawaii, all right? I'm on the side of the road. I have 8 miles and some change left. I can't get my leg on. I'm in physical pain. I'm tired. Things aren't going my way. I just munched on that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I want to quit. Every part of me wants to quit. But that decision, whether I'm going to quit or not, that was already made. I didn't have to make that decision. That was made years ago. Growing up, I was never allowed to quit anything. I signed up for the chorus in the 5th grade. Because it got me out of class for a little bit. And by the second session, I realized like I should not be in the chorus. I think I'm going to quit. And my mom's like, oh, sorry, you signed up. We're McElvenny's. We don't quit. I was like, oh, man. 10th grade, I wanted to quit football because I was the same size in the 10th grade as I was in the 6th grade. And you saw that picture. Like it wasn't going my way. My dad's like, no, sorry, we don't quit. Got to stick it out. I did not get into my college. I did not get into the Naval Academy. I got my rejection letter, which sucks. My dad says, that doesn't mean anything. I remember reading it, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, I think it means I can't go to the Naval Academy. You want to read it? He says, no, that means if you want to go there, we got to find another way. I ended up doing a year of prep school and then found it, so he taught me not to quit. And as a Marine, you don't quit. There's lives at stake. So it was ingrained in me. Like I didn't even think there was no way I was going to quit this thing. My question was not, am I going to finish this thing? My question was, how am I going to finish this thing? When we're asking that question, how am I going to do this? How am I going to reach this success? How am I going to accomplish this? That's when we're dangerous. We're in problem-solving mode. That's a good place to be. And I'm thinking, how can I do this? I need to get this leg on. So I ended up laying back, elevating my nub, my limb, my stump, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, I had my liner on. I let my heart rate come down. It must have looked weird because people were running by and they're like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm just hanging on to my nub, like, "Yeah, I'm good, man. What? Yeah, are you all right?" After about 10 minutes go by, the swelling was down a little bit. I'm like, let's go. I grab my prosthetic leg and I jam it on. It didn't go all the way on, but it was enough that I could stand up. And at that point, everything that I did was a little bit closer to that finish line. So I'm just going to keep doing it. So I stood up and then I started walking. With every step. With every step, my limb was pushing into that prosthesis a little bit more. And the next thing I know, after about a quarter of a mile, my walk is good. My leg is on. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but it was bearable. It was bearable. And I have my leg on, and there's a sleeve that goes from my running prosthesis that I pull up over my thigh. It helps keep your leg on. Because when you're running and your leg falls off, that's a bad day, right? So I pulled that thing up nice and high, and I start jogging, and the miles start dropping off, and the next thing I know, I'm on my last mile, and I took off. And it was crazy. The people, they were lining the streets, the crowd, the fans, they're like 5, 6 deep. They got cowbells. They're yelling my name. They're like, "Go, Eric. Go, Eric." I'm like, they know me. I'm famous, right? Later on, I looked down and my bib said Eric. I was like, oh, you know what? They probably didn't know me. That's all right. At that time, I needed that. And I just pick up. I come sprinting across that finish line. It was 11 hours, 54 minutes. I can't put the emotions into words. It felt so good, that sense of accomplishment. I can't even make this face. But I'll tell you what, I did answer that question that I asked myself a couple miles back. Eric, how'd you get yourself into this, right? For that moment. I think they gave me a medal. I don't know where that is. I got a finisher's t-shirt. That thing was sweet for like a year. But I'll tell you what, that journey is what was worth it. It was 22 months from injury to crossing that finish line. And I'll tell you, I love this picture. I love it. But it's missing a lot of people. It's just me up there like, yeah, my team isn't up there. And although Ironman seems like an individual race, it's a team sport. Life is a team sport, right? My doctors, my prosthetic practitioner, my physical therapist, my wife, Heinz Ward, the chocolate milk team. So many people were part of my team. They impacted how I live my life. And that's cool. When you can do something that impacts someone else's life, that's when you're doing good stuff. And I think it's important. To celebrate your goals. And I did. I celebrated that win. I did. It was good. Just like we're going to celebrate today. But then what's next? How can we continue to grow? And in the world of sport, I was like, I think I can go faster. And there was, at that time when I crossed that finish line, there were 3 other amputees in history that had finished an Ironman faster. And I said, that's it. I'm going to become the fastest amputee to ever run an Ironman. And I've done 8 of these stupid things now. Still not the fastest. There's a Brazilian guy who got me. I'll get him in number 9. If not, it'll be number 10, which will make him even more sweet. But I'll tell you, the journey is amazing. The journey is amazing. And one last goal that was pretty cool coming up in 2020. I got to go represent Team USA in the Paralympics, which is crazy. It was overwhelming. I got to represent my country in an athletic sport on a huge stage. And when I think about it, and I think back, like, one, I had the privilege of serving my country in uniform. Then I got to represent my country in a uniform, and it just all came full circle. But really, racing on the world stage, it started in the hospital bed. It started in the hospital bed, thinking big, dreaming big, with someone challenging me and me going with it. It was with us seeing that event, not tragedy, that event, that change, that challenge. We saw that as an opportunity. And we went for it. I did not win. That is not me saying I'm number 1. I got 6th in that race. And I remember I got home from the race, and it was televised. My wife didn't get to go because of the pandemic. Spectators couldn't go, so my wife and kids didn't get to do it. But she saw me on TV. And when I got home, she gave me like a big hug and a big kiss. And she said, Eric, why were you going so slow at the end of that race? She said, it wasn't a sprint triathlon. It didn't look like you were sprinting. I was like, oh, whatever. And then she said, but don't worry. I looked it up. In 2024, the Olympics and Paralympics are in Paris, France. And I really want to go to France. So tomorrow morning, you got a swim workout first thing, and then you got some gym time, and then we're going to do a big bike ride followed by some strength. And I was like, but I love it because I already thought it as well. I got to go to the Paralympics, and I got to experience it, but I didn't win a medal. I got sixth place, and what's next? How can we continue to grow? Continue to grow by going to the big games again and winning a medal. So we both have this same goal, and we're heading towards it. And I love it, and I think it's pretty cool. And I want to close out by saying I was doing a talk at a high school once, and a student asked me, if you can go back to the day that you were injured, what would you change? And Q&A is kind of hard because you have to give an answer right then and there, and then you think of a real good one on your drive home, right? But I was like, right then and there, I'm like, I probably wouldn't step right there, right? Maybe I go like around it, maybe like gingerly step over it, I don't know. And then I thought about it and really like, what would I change? And I'll tell you what, that point in time in my life was hard. It was very hard for myself, physically, emotionally, for my family, for my friends. There were some pretty dark times in and around that event. Like I don't want to go through that pain again, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it because of that journey that we were on, because what I learned about myself, one, I recognized my priorities. When I thought there was a moment I might be dying, two thoughts went through my head. I thought I was going to heaven, and I thought about my wife and my daughter. Those are the two things I thought of. For me, my faith and my family, I realized those are my priorities. Am I living according to them? And I had to get on track, and I still have to make rudder steers. But when my priorities are in line, everything else seems to fall in place. So what are your priorities? Are you living according to your priorities? And what can you implement into your life right now? No. Let's celebrate tonight, starting tomorrow. What can you implement into your life? So a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, you're going to be in a better place. You're going to have grown. We're always a student, always learning, always trying to get better. So think about the different challenges maybe you're facing right now, or maybe you're going to be facing. Think about some of the obstacles and adversity that are in your life, and are you looking at that as a bad thing or an opportunity? Last thing, this is what I'm grateful for. This is my family right here. What are you grateful for? You got Lupe standing next to me. She's a little bit older now. You got Will in the front. He just turned 7, so this is a little bit older, but he's such a quiet, cute, caring little boy when he's sleeping. Then he wakes up and he's like a savage. Then we got Elise. There's my wife. I think that's my last one. So what are you grateful for? Thank you so much. I look forward to hanging out with everyone throughout the rest of the evening, but thank you so much.